What? What? What?
I just saw a new art house film that stars Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. It's called The Lighthouse, and you might have heard about this one because obviously anything that Robert Pattinson signs his name to, there's a lot of attention on. But this is a tough movie to sit through and be fully entertained.
What?
There's some fantastic work in this movie. It's directed and written by Robert Eggers, who brought out The Witch a few years ago, which was a very creepy, get-under-your-skin horror movie, a very authentic feeling. This is a very authentic feeling movie about isolation. We get sort of the lighthouse keeper and his assistant perspective on how they're going to maintain this lighthouse, and they descend into madness.
Went mad, he did. Tall tales.
The lighthouse keeper, played by Willem Dafoe, seems to espouse this history of living and working on the sea, and then he has had to give all of that up to tend to this lighthouse. He starts off almost already crazy, and he's got lots of, as Robert Pattinson's character likes to say, Captain Ahab-like speeches throughout this movie, and Willem Dafoe just chews the scenery, sort of performing chanties and reciting poems.
Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow!
Meanwhile, Robert Pattinson, it seems to be this kind of edgy sort of dude on the run that's trying to figure out his place and keeping up the semblance of being a good worker, refusing to drink anything at the beginning of the movie. But slowly but surely, all kinds of creepy supernatural stuff starts to kind of seep into the movie, like the encroaching waves that seem to be ever present, as well as the seagulls that sort of float around menacingly.
How long have we been on this rock?
Everything is shot in black and white in this movie, so you know it's an art house movie. It reminded me a little bit of that Casey Affleck Ghost movie from a while ago. It's also a 4x3 shot or a square shot. It almost looks like it'd be perfect on an Instagram or something. There is a pretentiousness about it, but it's also a bold, kind of arty way to make a movie. There's also lots of really interesting visual effects shots, not sort of like CG, like everything feels almost like an old movie, the way that it was all crafted. Every once in a while you might see tentacles sort of come into frame, or you might see seagulls do something that just seems a little bit unnatural. This is all about, as you would imagine, the call of the sirens and the mermaids that starts to kind of threaten the life of somebody that's tasked with being alone at a lighthouse and having nothing but the sea to contend with. So Eggers and his production team kind of put that into the mix there, and they do it in some interesting ways with some cool visual effects. There's lots of really slow pace shots, but then almost as if you can feel the storm that's the centerpiece of the movie kind of welling up in the soundtrack. It feels like the movie gets louder and louder and more intense. It just gets more boisterous, a little more frightening as we go on and on. Kind of like what he did with The Witch as well. The pressure just starts to mount. I know what you're wondering, is Robert Pattinson going to be up to the task as Batman after seeing something like this? And I was reminded of Christian Bale taking the role in The Machinist and having to famously lose all that weight. And then one of his next big performances was as Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins.
I'm Batman.
It feels a little bit like that, knowing that Robert Pattinson is probably training his ass off right now to become the Batman. And you can see him, brooding and dark and menacing. And obviously he's a very good-looking dude. That's what he's made all of his money on as teen heartthrob. The camera loves him, and he can brood very well. And I think that he had to kind of ratchet up his performance skills, which we've seen over the last half decade or so, that he's become a more comfortable actor and a much more skilled actor in a variety of different roles.
Starting new.
I'm starting to feel much more comfortable with the idea that he is going to become the Dark Knight, and he's going to move way beyond his teen heartthrob sort of roots. He's good in this, but I don't think any actor could really hold their candle next to Willem Dafoe. I think that we're probably going to be looking at Willem Dafoe come Oscar season for the work that he does here. It's very showy, it's very theatrical, but that's what the role demands, and he is totally up to task.
What?
This is a movie that I'm not going to forget, but I don't quite know who to recommend this for. It's not like oh my God, I just saw The Lighthouse. Everyone rush out and go see this movie. It's amazing. I think if you're, studying acting, or if you want to be a filmmaker, or you just have a predilection for stuff that's a little different than what we would traditionally get on big screens these days, this might be something that you want to check out. Also, if you're very interested to see what Robert Pattinson is capable of as an actor, which I know a lot of people are, and that's presumably how a movie like this gets greenlit. I also got to say, though, that it's great that movies like this do get greenlit. It's great that there are some options and some alternatives to, the sci-fi fare and the superhero fare and all the fun stuff that we usually cover on Electric Playground. And this is a very creepy film that's very well made, and, I applaud all that, but I can't wait to get back to my Nintendo Switch and forget all about this world. I'm going to give The Lighthouse a 7 out of 10.